Probably I go kill. People probably I go kill. How many people probably I go kill? How many people probably I go kill? Tired. You go kill us tired. Tired. How many people probably I go kill? Many people probably I go kill. Many people probably I go kill. How many people probably I go kill? How many people probably I go kill? Probably I go kill. Yeah, I go kill. Tired. You go kill it, tired. You kill it, tired. Many people probably I go kill. You retire. People probably I go kill. Many people probably I go kill. People probably I go kill. Pobia go kill. Pobia go kill. Tayo, you go kill me, Tayo. How many people Pobia go kill? Tayo, you go kill me, Tayo. Pobia go kill. Many people go kill. Okay. Pobia go kill. You're tired. How many people Pobia go kill? Pobia go kill.
DIY. This device shows you an exact image of what's behind your wall.
Pobia go kill. Many people Pobia go kill. Many people Pobia go kill. Tired. Tired. Go kill. People Pobia go kill. How many people Pobia go kill? The last day you don't know. It's gonna be the last day you don't know. Be the last day you don't know. Pobia go kill. Pobia go kill. Pobia go kill.
Kada isa ami moto o manu pu hit kobara. We're Red and Link, and we wanted to show you how we created our amazing new website with Wix. Now, we know that having a great website is crucial because when we look good online, our brand just feels good. Check out all these templates. There are hundreds of them, and they're actually fully designed websites. I like this one. It's all drag and drop, and you can change anything you want. Okay, now let's change the text. Also, let's give the font a little twist. Okay, I'm going to drop in a photo here and make it just right. I feel like here's a good place to add a gallery. And it's cool because the photos will keep their high-res quality. I'm already impressed with our website link. As am I. There's a video gallery. Let's add it. It gets automatically updated with our YouTube account. Wait, don't forget to add our Instagram feed. There. Done. Well, that's it. That's the coolest thing we've collaborated on in months. Go to Wix.com. Create your stunning website today. STV, votre thé.
Go kill. Pobia go kill. How many people Pobia go kill? Retire. You go kill retire. You go kill retire. How many people Pobia go kill? Retire. How many people Pobiago kill? You don't know.
The LTF calls for a national dialogue to address the Anglophone problem, without which deliberations, they said, will not continue. Esther Kimatabot has the detail.
Many people Pobiago kill. Pobiago kill. All right. Uh. Thank you. I thank you. If you just tuning in, just send message so that we have others, inviting others to join us. And if you are just joining us, just indicate where you are. And thank you for the taking off your time.
I pressed so many buttons, yeah, on the phone. It's like you have to tap on the right upper corner where it shows like a camera where you tap that.
Yes.
Invites you, press the green button, but you have to put it horizontal and then it goes, yeah. But there was not sufficient invitation link.
Yes.
Okay, well.
There's a lot of technology. There's a lot of technology. Thank you so much. There's a lot of technology. I'm sure we have to catch up with the technology.
That's true, yeah. It's also new. Every day something new is coming.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks for the invitation.
Yes. I want to thank you so much for taking off your time to join me live on this. Yes, that's the. Yeah, you just put it so that my viewers can be able to see. I know that's exactly. I want to thank you so much. And before I proceed, I usually thank the United States government. I want to thank them for excellent job. I want to thank the President of the United States. I want to thank the U.S. Congress. U.S. Congress has been doing a very fabulous job, and I want to thank the U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. Tillerson, and for his wonderful job to ensure that that freedom can be able to reign in the Anglophone territory. I want to thank the United Nations Secretary General, Permanent Representative, U.S. Permanent Representative to the United Nations, Nikki Haley. I understand she has invited some leaders of the Anglophone speaking, especially those in the diaspora, to come and discuss the issues. As data will be made available, we will bring forth those informations. And I also want to thank Clark, who is the Honorable Clark, is a U.S. representative that is working hard to make sure that the people of the Anglophone speaking have their message heard. And we also want to thank the statement that was made by the British government concerning the Anglophone speaking territory. And I know intercity press, you understand intercity press is always talking about the issues in the Anglophone speaking and elsewhere in the United Nations. And I want to, the intercity press asked the French ambassador to the United Nations whether France is going to make a statement. And I'm sure the information is all over the news, and nobody has made a statement. They haven't. And because France is the architects of the genocide that is currently going on in the Southern Cameroon territory. As I'm speaking, there is some indications that the French military are currently in the south, in Douala, which is the economic capital of the La République. And they said there is some in Simalek, which is the capital of Yaoundé, the airport. And while I'm still speaking, they said there is some Chadian soldiers that have been paid by La République and they're currently fighting alongside, causing atrocity, murdering an Anglophone citizen in the Anglophone territory. And those Chadian, although we haven't get a clear information, but there is indication that is what is happening. As I'm speaking, if you currently join us, wherever you are, just indicate, just leave a little bit of note just below. That will let me know where you are. If you are in ground zero, I just want to thank you to take off your time to join me this afternoon. And I have an important guest, Mr. Christopher Messner. He's going to be our guest today. And if you have any information, just share so that they can tune us and join us. He will be with us. He's already with us live, and share the information so that they can be able to view. He has a very wonderful person, and we thank him for his ability. He's an excellent person. He's going to share us this important thing, that is whatever is happening in Ambazonian. And we want to give him a brief opportunity to introduce himself, and I can be speaking of him. Mr. Messner, thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to give some kind of greetings to our listeners then before we proceed.
Thank you, Dr. Fontong, for your kind invitation. My heart is really beating with all Ambazonians since I was there in 2013 and later, and working there, and I saw the plight of the Ambazonians living under this evil regime of Paul Biya. And since Paul Biya cut the internet, a boiling point was reached for me where I said to myself, now we have to do something. We have to be political. We cannot just tolerate everything anymore. And that's when I started engaging. And, that I'm a German man by origin, but I do not advocate any form of neocolonialism, no matter whether that is from the French or the British or the German or the American or the Chinese side. Yeah, I really truly want that the Africans are owning and ruling their own land. It's just something which is going against my strain when I see when people are treated so unjust. And if life and fate would have brought me to another area on the globe, yeah, maybe in Greenland with the Eskimos, and the Eskimos are treated badly by Canada or whoever, then I would engage for the Eskimos. And I also must say that I'm also engaged in Germany because I see their illegitimate power elites also in the EU. I'm also engaged in Germany because I see their illegitimate. You have to understand, this is a matter which is of global relevance. We are fighting against. You have to understand, this is a matter which are tormenting millions and millions of peoples. And France in Africa is just one example of not many, but it's a bad example. Yeah. And what Dr. Funtong just said, that the Biya regime is engaging or buying Chadian mercenaries, shows you that these power elites do not outrightly kill everybody, no matter what, but they want to suck you, to milk you, to let you alive, and to keep a good reputation as if everything would be normal. So they care about their reputation in the international media and on international political stage. And that's why they buy foreign mercenaries, because they know very well that they cannot do everything with the Cameroonians. They cannot order everything on Francophone Cameroonians and, of course, Anglophone Ambazonians, because they wouldn't do it. Not everybody is doing massacres. So they know they're acting badly, and of course we have to exploit every weak point of this enemy and intercept and cut his lifelines. So right now is a very decisive moment for Ambazonia, and I'm also kind of making a halt, to stop reflecting everything again. Are we doing the right thing? How do we bring the leaders more together, and so on? So it's a difficult moment. It's also tough for me right now to go online and speak well, because nobody's perfect. Yeah.
Thank you for that brief introduction and that summary. Thank you so much. And before we dive into our discussion, the acting president, I know many people are always confused. There is an interim president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia that has been sandwiched. What I mean by sandwich, it means La République and Nigerian government have sandwiched them together, and their whereabouts we don't know exactly. While we're trying to figure out where they are, and that was the topic of the acting president. Interim is the one that has been adopted. Acting president is the one that is currently in place. While this is so, in the meantime, all the Southern Cameroon in ground zero, we have an acting president, and he just spoke a few minutes ago or an hour ago in regard to the how we're gonna move forward. Why he is looking investigate the situation and also following with the international community how we can move forward. And I want to. He actually said, "We the diaspora, we must sell our jewelry in order to fund the government to get rid of La Republique in our southern Cameroon territory." And that is why I want our guests to actually comment on the speech of the acting president that just few or an hour ago. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just also heard the speech of the active interim president, Dr. Sarko, and I'm impressed. I think he's a good man, and I think if this sandwiched president, as you said it, Sisiko Ayoktabe, would be freed and come out now, then the acting President Dr. Sarko would step down and let Ayub Dhabi be the prime president again. I think Dr. Sarko has a very good character, and that's why we should support him very much, since right now we are in an emergency situation and we need to be able to act and to act fast with certain things. And we should stop this assuming that there's too much conspiracy going on in various groups against each other. It is always true that some parties, some individuals are conspirating, that is true, but I think the character of a person also counts very, very much. And if you suspect a certain individual to go against your own philosophy or your own prioritized agenda, then you should also first listen to him why he's doing what he's doing, or which kind of approach is behind it. So I do not want to say that we should oversee all the internal dirty things which are going on. We should not oversee it, but we should also not, box somebody out only because he has the wrong label, which you do not like. I mean, the character, the individual person, his qualities are counting very, very much now, and we really need every man on board, which is rowing our rescue boat into the right direction. I think this is our situation right now. We are in a rescue boat called Ambazonian, and we are rowing this boat away from the sinking ship Mozambique and sinking ship Bia regime, and that ship is still shooting at us. While we have hurriedly rowing this boat towards the rescuing shore called Independence. And so everybody in this boat has to row hard, and we have to row in the same tact. And it does not matter whether one is rowing on the front row and the side row and the behind row. Yeah, it does not matter which title you give that person. So if we have 2 presidents, it does not matter. You know, we can have 10 presidents as long as they're doing their job. That's what I want. So maybe I'm a little wrong with that.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that analysis. And I'm sure many of my listeners are hearing. And if you just tune in, just share so that many people should join us. We have very important guest here, Mr. Christopher Messner. He's with us live, and if he happen to be on, just share so that many people should tune us. He's discussing important issues. And once more again, I think the Nigerian, what did they call it? Is it a Congress or Nigerian House of Assembly or whatever? They just passed a document. I don't know if I may be mistakenly, maybe asking the government to account of why they have to send the arrested leaders of the Federal Republic of Ambazonian interim government. They have the legal right, and Nigeria is bound by that law to observe. Nigeria has no authority to hand over a refugee to La Republique because they are bound by the international law, and therefore they are asking them to elaborate, and they call the defense minister to also elaborate what happens. And I don't know if you have any clue about that. Could you discuss if you have any idea? If not, we'll move forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I did not read that document. I just only heard that the Nigerian parliament spoke out in our favor and pronounced the special status of independence of Southern Cameroons, or former Southern Cameroons, which is very, very favorable for us. Of course, we should be glad about that, but you know, Nigeria is always like a wild tiger in which money counts a lot, and but we have to see that Nigeria is very diverse. So you have many parties in Nigeria, many tribes, and many different leaders of certain regions. And it can be that a regional leader is more important to us than the president of Nigeria, although, of course, we have to be careful what the Nigerian president is doing. But I am really not a specialist about Nigerian politics. I still need to learn a lot. And we just need to be aware that we just need Nigeria and the regional leaders there, especially in our border regions. We need Nigeria as our friend. And if the government of Nigeria is not for us, and if they violate the law, we can attack it, we can point to it in international media, but we should be aware that the Nigerian government is not everything. So there are other leaders in Nigeria, parties, reasonable people, friends, rich people who may help us. So Nigeria is just so big and so powerful, all in all, that it's up to us Ambazonians, to get sufficient allies from Nigeria. And I think that should be always possible.
Yeah, thank you. And I will agree with that, your analysis. And thank you again for the analysis. I know there's so many. I hope you have enough time. We have a lot of things to discuss. And another very important thing that I want to bring in for our audience about the issues that is going to the crisis that is going on in the Federal Republic of Ambazonian territory. First, I have always emphasized the Southern Cameroon territory, the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, the former the former West Cameroon, whatever name anyone is more familiar. But one thing I want people to understand is that Southern Cameroon or Federal Republic of Ambazonia was never a conquered territory. In 19 United Nations Resolution 1608 XV 21 April 1961, United Nations General Assembly in 994 plenary meetings on Friday 21st of April 1961 at 3 p.m. in New York, here in the United States. They voted in a 64 for the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon and 23 vote against. And most of the French-speaking territory, most of the French-speaking voted against, despite the fact that the Southern Cameroon was able to gain their independence. Uh, the leader of the person that initiated that elections has written to United Nations that that relationship with La Republique that I initiated is no longer valid. Now they want total separation. They don't want to live with La Republique because they want to maintain their sovereignty. But La Republique, on that voting date that I've just read, did not vote for the Southern Cameroon sovereignty. And now, United States government voted for the Southern Cameroon independence. If I have to read the list of the nations, United States government voted. And in a recent letter written by the U.S. Representative at the United Nations, that he wants to speak with the diaspora because of the concern. I want to make this clear that we, the diaspora, when we meet the United States representative, we must be firm in our decisions that the past 56 years is enough and we want a total separation of La Republique. And that's our main goal. We don't know when the date is scheduled. I don't know if our guest knows any detailed information. Hopefully it will be made available. I wanted to share with my listeners about the United Nations resolution of 1961 that declared Southern Cameroon as a sovereign nation. And what is the claim La Republique is making over the Southern Cameroon territory?
Yeah, this former UN resolution, this voting in favor of the sovereignty of British Southern Cameroons, 64 to 23, right?
Yes, yeah. Initially, the plenary session was held in 1961 that granted the sovereignty. And then there was a series of votes that was held. There was a series of meetings between La Republique and the Southern Cameroon, whether they should live in a relationship. But they actually document that granted Southern Cameroon as a sovereign or an independent nation that was the resolution of 1608 on the 21st of April 1961 that granted the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon as a nation on its own.
I think we should take into account that this vote was carried out a long time ago in a very special phase of African history where all the African states became independent or officially were released into independence. Then later on, it turned out that much of that given independence was only a pseudo independence because in various forms of tricky neocolonialism, a monetary kind of neocolonialism in the case of France, these African states were still left into dependence from former European masters in quotation marks. Yeah. So what we have to overthink now is, now we have 2017, and it is so many decades later. And now some of the sorry, Facebook is interrupting with some messages, but I hope it does not disturb too much.
No, it's okay. I think it's just on sound. Yeah, that's okay.
And now the former colonial masters, like France in our case, they will say, hey, what do you want, Ambazonia? You lived under French rule, under the BR regime, like for decades, and you did not protest all the time. So why shouldn't it be possible to live with the French? So back in 1960, we released you into independence, but you were not quite ready yet because you did not have the infrastructure, and decided, okay, we let the French build up the country, help build up the country, put infrastructure, build facilities and so on. And I expect they will think and talk like that right now, and then they will say, oh, this old UN vote so long ago, it does not really have this validity anymore. So don't build on that. And I think partly they are right. We have to know now why we can be fully independent right now. We have to really show that we make decisions, as Amazonia makes decisions really on its own, and does not care, what former colonial masters are saying. And how do we do that? We have to behave like a real state, building up its own infrastructure, its own army, its own and I think this problem will be solved if we also get released from this old mindset that the European states are so strong and developed, and somehow they have to give us the independence. UN has to give us the independence. No, first we have to act independent with an attitude saying, to hell with UN, to hell with France, to hell with BR regime. We are ourselves. We do what we want. That's what they want to see. So, it's hard for me to put it on the scales and weigh actually how much does the UN right now still how much does the UN still take this old UN vote from 1960 into account? And how big is the weight of all the later juridical, how do you say in English, things happening? The Bamenda High Court decision and the Restoration Law of 1984. So all the things the judiciary of Cameroon did later on, and how did Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonia, deal with it through the decade? So the core thing is that Ambazonia does not want that French rule and that civil law of the French, and they have a different language. So here we have some very, very heavy weighing criteria. But we also need to show now that we want our own army, our own money system, own culture, and our internal groups are all saying yes to it. So this unity inside ourselves and among our own rows is absolutely necessary. to reach the international bodies to vote in favor for our independence. We could also then claim the UN should vote again on us, but we should not do it before we have shown the world that we are really acting independently as one nation. Basically, our independence should not be dependent on any vote of other nations, basically. And the funny thing is that vote will come to our favor as soon as we don't make it dependent on their vote. Yeah? So we need to be clear about what actually comes first. First comes our Ambazonian self-confidence and collective will to self-govern. And that's we have to express unisono on all channels. And then we're taken seriously. And then all other things, the UN votes or getting recognition by a foreign state, that will just come and fall into place in our favor then. I hope I make sense.
Yeah, no, actually, it does make a sense. There are a couple of things that you mentioned, which is very, very, very important. And I have also talked about it. That is how to form a defensive, and to be able to protect our citizens in the Southern Cameroon territory or the Federal Republic of Ambazonian territory. And that is the goal. And I think the acting president did mention about that. And another important thing that you mentioned is that of a currency. And I have talked about it because so long as we rely on the CFA as the major means of exchange between our local community in the Federal Republic of Ambazonian territory, that is when La Republic has a grip on us, thinking that they can control and manage everything. I think the most important thing that should be in the measure on the table of the acting government and including the interim government officials, that a currency should be the top priority to implement it and gradually phase out La Republique CFA, because that is exactly things that has to be done. Because France thinks we are here to making jokes. We are here to make it clear that the Anglophone territory is not La Republique territory. And the people has decided to become a sovereign nation. And that they're going to make it clear to La Republique that they need to just get out of the Southern Cameroon territory. And while we meet with the U.S., Nikki Haley, the permanent representative at the United Nations, we want to make it clear. And we're asking La Republique to evacuate the Anglophone territory. While I'm speaking, there is currently murdering going on now that I'm speaking with you. And if I go on my Facebook, you will see those images. They look horrible. And the one question one will ask, why is La Republique in the Anglophone territory? Absolutely, there's no reason. They can't clarify why they are. The Anglophone is a sovereign nation. United Nations granted independence. It's just like a child. When a child is born, is born once. And when someone is dead once. A child can never be born twice. And so if Southern Cameroon was voted in 1964 as a sovereign nation, then they don't need additional vote from the United Nations to declare Southern Cameroon as a sovereign nation. So once a child is born, the child is born. And that is why Southern Cameroon is a sovereign nation. And the sons and daughters of this Southern Cameroon has chosen that the past 56 years being with La Republique is absolutely disgusting. And besides that, the leader of that initiate that relationship between the Southern Cameroon and La Republique, Jongu Foncha, has written to the United Nations stating that that relationship is not workable. You have the SDF has been there they've won elections and they were not recognized because they were expressed. Remember, one French president said, an Anglophone speaking can never be a president in La République. And in 1990s, you have the AAC one, the All Anglophone Conference, where you have people like Simon Mozu, who has now become uh, a wandering man. I don't even know whether he still has. He still is now a wandering man. Simon Mozu. He was one of the decisions that they formed that were decided in the All Anglophone Conference one, and in all second All Anglophone Conference two. La République, and they still stood for a total suppression. La République took advantage because there were not this media as we have now to be able to share this, what was happening to the rest of the world. So we thank God for this opportunity, for this media that we are able now to share this information. And I want to thank you for having the opportunity to be in the Southern Cameroon territory and witness the example of what it means like being in the Southern Cameroon territory. And I want to thank you again for this opportunity for able to share with us. I want you to talk to, I know, 11th of February, La République is thinking that the students are going to march. So we want to make it clear that 11th of February is no longer valid in the Southern Cameroon territory. And anyone attempt to go on the street to march in the name of 11th February, you are doing that at your risk because Southern Cameroon does not honor any 11th February and everyone should be in their home. I'm sure he is aware of 11th February and I will want my guests to talk about it, and thank you again.
Yes, all I can say is we have to boycott the special days of that French Cameroon system or regime. You know that those days somehow were also kind of cosmetic, where they like to appear as a really caring state and government for their people and for the youth. And what did they really care for? Does the youth really have all the school books it needs in all the schools? And are all roofs repaired in the schools, or does it rain into the roof? I mean, if the government really would care for our youth, then it would make sense to make any marches or celebration. But what should we celebrate if there's no care at all? So, and then now, especially, of course, when we are under attack and the regime is killing our civilians and children, and this is so bad that it is out of question to participate. It is out of question to participate in any marching, in any celebration. It's logical. It's our enemy. Also, the upcoming elections. Of course, Ambazonian needs to boycott. We are not participating in elections of foreign countries. Are we participating in Angola or in Southern Sudan or what? So I hope, of course, it does not lead to unnecessary casualties. I think the Ambazonian population is clever enough to handle it well and to cut the lifelines of the occupiers. We will calculate them out more and more, and it is not about cutting the original bondage between brother and sister. We just need to realize that when a brother is raping his sister, then you cannot celebrate anything with a brother while he's doing a rape. So it's not about about splitting brother and sister. It's just doing the right thing in the right moment. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Christoph. Is a very important person that he's been working very hard to ensure that the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon is maintained. And he was speaking about the issues about participating in the 11 February deliberation. It's why should the youth participate? You are attending a class and you are Republic of Ambazonia. It's not participate. Maybe if they think we are going after you, we'll make this clear. Any attempt, there is some speculations that he made.
Yeah, I have also heard about to sort out a possible follower for former of